Hello. Welcome, everybody. This is a special Chart-a-Thon as a thank you to my subscribers. I now have almost 1,050 subscribers. So thank you to all of you who went ahead and subscribed if you hadn't already. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. It actually does really help me with YouTube, and it makes it easier for me to create all this free content that I do. I mean, I'm doing 2 videos a week, it's a lot. Thank you to all of you who sent in your charts. I do want to say I had some challenges with the charts because they came in all different formats, all different sizes, all different file forms. I do want to just let you know a few things. If you sent in a chart and you didn't ask a question, I didn't consider your chart because I asked for a question. And it's just much easier for me when I have something to focus on. I did select charts that I thought, some of them I just thought it would be interesting for you all to see them because some of them are a little unusual. And I did try to include, if I had, of course, we have a predominance of generators and manifesting generators because that's the predominance of the population in the world. But we do had a reflector, we had a manifester, but a couple of projectors. So I did try to have some kind of spread of different representation of different types. And the vast majority of people asked questions that would fall into the category of life purpose, or, what would be a good job for me, or what is, kind of like my superpower or things like that. So I will be addressing those. I do want to make a couple of comments just about that in general. And this will tell me if you want to just even say hello in the chat. I know a couple of you said hello. If you want to just pop that in there, that'd be great. So you all just make sure you're sending it to everyone and not to panelists, and maybe say where you're coming in from, because it'll also help me know later on who was here live. So hi, Angie. Hi, Jen. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Sananda. Hi, Flora. Okay, great. So, and that way you all can kind of see who else is here too. Hi, Ray. Okay, good. And hello, Joanne. Excellent. And Rhonda and Lynn. Oh, good. I'm going to talk about all of a bunch of your charts. I do want to let you know, if I've already done a reading of your chart, either on a Chart-a-Thon or something else like that, I didn't select you for this because I really wanted to have time to focus on people who haven't had a chance to have me take a look at their chart before. All right. So let's see. How am I going to do this? So regarding like life purpose and your right work in the world and stuff like that, if you haven't already, I do encourage you to go and watch the video that I released recently. There were a couple of different ones on life purpose. One was specifically for generators. The one before that was about life purpose. And because I address kind of big issues, especially in that first video, that I hope will help you if this is something that you're mulling over. Because honestly, I can't look at your chart and just say your life purpose is X. Like, if I were doing that, I would feel really out of integrity, honestly, because your life purpose is going to be something that emerges also out of your life experience. It's going to emerge out of your particular your ancestral history, your soul's journey, what you've experienced in your lifetime already, and what you feel drawn to and what you don't feel drawn to. And I can tell you, just looking at my own chart and thinking about my own life experience, there are aspects of what I consider to be my life purpose, like supporting people with embodiment, for example. Right? I have been on a path of embodiment for many years, and yet I have only one gate in the entire sensing circuit defined in my chart. It's not defined in my chart. And yet it's been something that I've been really interested in and have practiced and have pursued pretty significantly through my life. And the fact that it was open in my chart was not a deterrent. It actually, I think, in some ways, what drew me in, because I got to experience embodiment in so many different ways when I was around different people. So I just always like to have that caveat, because it's not really, I don't think, accurate to just look at a chart and say your life purpose is X. A couple of you asked about your incarnation crosses, and I would refer you, there is a website that has a brief description of all of the incarnation crosses. All you have to do is Google human design incarnation cross and it'll come up. I think it's called Love Your Human Design Incarnation Crosses. I just looked at it this morning. If you want that, another reference is this book, which is the Book of Destinies. It's Chetan Parkin and Carola Eastwood's book that has a description of the different incarnation crosses based on your conscious sun. Now, I was not taught in all of my training, I was not taught to go through 192 separate different incarnation crosses for each of their meanings. Okay. That was not part of my training. And my teacher didn't even think that that was particularly helpful. But the other thing I'll say is it's really important if you go and you read any of these, like I read what's in Chetan's book and Carola's book, I don't resonate with it. I don't. It doesn't resonate for me. I just looked at the thing online and I was like, it doesn't resonate for me. So it's important for you always to feel authorized around your knowing your life purpose, what's true for you. What now I've learned how to live into my incarnation cross, but I've done that through studying the gates, the circuits, the channels that they're in, if they're in channels, the centers that they're a part of. And so it's been a much more of an exploratory process than if you have this, then you're this. And I actually don't really believe in that way of reading a chart. I don't, because I think it's just more complicated than that. And you're a more complex being. So the other thing is sometimes people really want somebody to tell them who they are. And you know what? You're the expert on you. You are the expert on you. And yes, I can tell you things about your human design, and hopefully they will reveal things to you about yourself that maybe you haven't fully honored or you haven't fully expressed. And that happens a lot. But you know what happens a lot in my readings with people is confirmation and affirmation. I say things to people that they're like, I kind of knew that was true about me. I'm like, yeah, it's so true. You wouldn't even believe how true it is. Take a look. It's not like I'm telling people things that they never thought of. Occasionally that happens, but it's unusual. Okay, so that's just the thing I would say about life purpose, and I would say about incarnation crosses. And I would really invite you into the experiment, the grand experiment of human design, and for you to become the expert on you, because you are. And somebody like me can help you. I'm good at kind of, especially if I'm working with a client, going in and helping sort through it and unpack it. But I just want you to feel empowered about yourself and never, ever, ever give away your power to other people to tell you who you are. All right. That's my shtick. It's my beginning shtick for today. For a bunch of you, you have a whole lot of the knowing circuit. And so I'm not necessarily going to be able to get into talking in detail about everybody's particular knowing circuit. But the thing I want to say is that if you have a lot of the knowing circuit, and of course, I'm going to attract people who have the knowing circuit because I have a lot of the knowing circuit and I talk about it all the time. But my question for you is, what are you doing with all those downloads you get? What are you doing with the divine guidance that's constantly pouring through you? What are you doing with the out of the box ideas or perspectives that you're receiving through your knowing circuit? Because we are living through unprecedented times here on planet Earth. And my perspective is that those of us who have this knowing circuit, and all of us have the knowing circuit, right? But some of us have it defined in our chart.
it's going to be through that kind of divine guidance that we're going to make our way through the challenges that we're having here on planet Earth. Like, we're not going to do it through the logic circuit. We're not going to do it through the pattern understanding circuit. That's not how it's going to happen. That part of our intelligence is going to play a role, but it's not going to come up with the really innovative ways of addressing climate change or addressing economic inequality or looking at environmental degradation or whatever, right? It's not going to come that way. That's not the part of our faculties that's designed to do that. The part of us that's designed to do that is our intuitive capacity to connect and receive directly from the creative intelligence of the universe. And that's what the knowing circuit is all about. So those of you who have a lot of it defined in your chart, your charge is to open up to and receive what's coming through that incredible, through line that you have to the universe, and to be honoring what you receive, to reflect on it, and then take action on it. Take action on it. This is what we need, I believe, to get through this choice point, this fulcrum point that we're here in right now on planet Earth. So please do take that seriously if you're getting it. I can't even tell you the number of people who have come to me for readings, and I'll ask them, so you're highly intuitive. What are you doing with all that intuitive, the downloads that you get? And you go, oh, I write it in my journal. I'm like, okay, and then what? And then what? What are you doing with it? So please authorize yourself to do something with that, with those intuitive ideas that are coming in, and talk to other people about it, because this is how we're going to get to where we need to get to. Okay. One other thing about life purpose, this is actually true really for everything, and everything that you guys ask me about, guys, is it requires self-connection. Okay. It's not out there. It's in here. And the thing that's so awesome about human design is it teaches us actually how to connect with our deepest selves through our strategy and our authority. Okay. And so many of you asked me questions, and my first response to it was like, well, are you asking your sacral? You are a generator, and you're asking, should I go this way or should I go that way? And I'm like, well, what does your sacral say? Right? So just remember, if you are a generator, if you're a sacral being, that is your superpower. One of your biggest superpowers is your sacral authority. If you're emotionally defined, your sacral is still going to give you responses. And your emotions, you do not want to make decisions emotionally. Somebody sent me a chart that said, oh yeah, you want to make your decisions based on how you feel. I'm like, no, actually, it's exactly the opposite. You do not want to make your decisions emotionally. That's a whole other thing. There's videos about that. But I do want to say, please, if you aren't already practicing your strategy and your authority, whatever that is, via your type and your design, that's the first place that you want to go. Okay. All right. So I think those are my caveats for here, my general comments. All right. If you have any comments about what I just said, or ahas or anything like that, please do feel free to put that in the chat. And Sunanda is here from India, and it's 1:30 in the morning. Thank you for coming and staying up at that time. Somebody else was going to come on at 4:30 in the morning. I don't remember who it was, but we try to reach people around the globe as much as we can. So Suzanne asked, what fields of work or job positions would best suit me based on my chart? So looking at her chart, okay, she has got about half of her chart, half of her gates are in collective circuits. Okay, so that means that she's got a lot of the sensing circuit here. And so she's got the 56, the 35, the 41, the 52.9, the 46 twice, the 13. Okay. So she's got a lot of this sensing circuit, and she's also got quite a bit of the pattern circuit over here. And so people who have a lot of collective circuitry or I counted, there's 14 different activations. Okay. And so that means that she would do well probably in a bigger company or a bigger organization, not so much on her own. Like she possibly could do that, but that would not be the first thing that I would necessarily recommend. Um, she's also super sensitive because she's got the gate 19 is double defined here. And so you want to, I don't know, Suzanne, if you consider yourself a highly sensitive person or not, but you very well might. And so you want to make sure that whatever you do, you have an environment that feels good to you. Like it's going to be important with all of this sensing circuit and with that 19 defined, which is actually tribal energy, but it's very, very sensitive, is you want to make sure that you feel good wherever you are, because if you don't, it's really not going to it's not going to be sustainable for you, and you're not going to like it. So please do pay attention to the messages that you get about how you feel when you're in environment. The other thing I want to say to you, let's see, how old are you? You're 48. Okay. And you're a 4-6 profile. And this also is something I want to respond to Alex, who had asked me about why he keeps jumping around and why it's hard for him to focus. So with a 6-line profile, Alex is also a 6 line. There are 3 different life stages. Okay. And the first 35 years are more like a 3rd line. And so Alex, when we're, let's see, I think I've got this chart here, is when you are in those first 35 years, and I believe you told me you were 35, that you're going to act more like a 3rd line. And so that means you're going to try a whole lot of different things. You're going to want to experiment a bunch of different things. And I'm not surprised that you don't feel that it's easy for you to settle down or commit to something. Now, this may start to change while you're going into this mid period of life between 35 and about 50. And Suzanne's going to be at the end of that period because she's about 48. And this is going to be a consolidating period of time for you, where you're going to get to look back at all of the different things that you did. You get to assess what you really enjoyed, and you get to see what you'd like to do more of, what you never want to do again, and so on. So there's a lot of consolidating, integrating, looking at what has worked for you, or what you're like, hey, it was great, I'm glad I did it, but I don't need to do that again. Suzanne, you're just starting to come out of that period. Ra used to call this being on the roof, which I always found to be kind of an odd way of describing it. But it means that there's a kind of pulling back from all of that experimentation that you want to do in those first 35 years or so, and to be getting more clear about what is really suited to you. So my suggestion for you, Suzanne, if you haven't already done that, is to really go back and review for yourself. And this is true for anybody regarding life purpose or what it is you want to do with your life. It's go back and take a look, even from your earliest age, and think about, what were you always drawn to? What can you not want to do? Like for me, even though I don't have the sensing circuit defined in my chart, I have been a mover for, I don't know, since I was 20 at any rate. I have been a mover. I've been embodied. Pursuing embodiment is something I cannot not do. And now, even though I am a human design specialist, I work with clients on embodiment all the time. So think about what it is that really lights you up. And for you, Alex, you're just kind of moving out of this really experiential stage, experimental stage, into this consolidation period. I also think that, I know you were asking about the stair step. His question was, can you explain to me what the stair step learning curve means for a generator? Actually, Alex, looking at your chart, I don't actually think that's the issue for you at all. I think it's the 6-line profile. I think your Saturn is in the 34, and let's see, it is lighting up twice. Okay, so that's another thing, is that the Saturn is the great teacher and is the one that is wanting you to learn how to incrementally develop your own self-knowledge, your self-discipline around whatever energy he's lighting up. The gate 34 is right here on the sacral. It's double defined. You can see it has both red and black, and it's Saturn is lighting it up. So the 34 is the gate of power. It's also known as the busy gate. It's really designed to multitask. So you're always going to want to have multiple projects, but try to have 3 instead of 30. Because sometimes people who, especially, third line, people who go on having third lines or in 1-3s often like to have like 30 different projects. And if they have the 34, even more so. So you want to try to have a manageable number of projects, but you're never going to settle down to one thing. But you want to grab a hold of the power of that, because it's the gate of power. It's the most powerful gate in the whole chart. And so you want to get on top of that energy and harness it for yourself so you can direct it where you want it to go. Otherwise, you can find yourself spinning around and jumping from the thing to thing, which is what it sounds like has been the true for you. Yeah. And you're saying, why do I keep quitting everything I start? And what's one thing I can do to stop or relieve this pattern? So the one thing you can do is, for one thing, is don't make yourself bad and wrong. Okay. For having had this way of experiencing your life so far. So that's number one. Release any self-judgment that you have about that, or the way other people have judged you about that. And then also just learn to work with the power of that energy. Another thing that could be contributing to you is that you've got all 3 of those gates in the head defined, which means that you've got 3 different distinct kinds of energies coming in through your head. One is coming through the sensing circuit, one's coming through the logic circuit, one's coming through the knowing circuit. And so these are different kinds of energies, and they may be pulling you in slightly different directions. And so for you to learn about what these circuits are, the qualities of those energies are of the 64, 60, 63, and build your capacity to be able to receive information and guidance through each one of them without feeling like you're being knocked around by them. I hope that makes sense. Okay. That's the best thing I can say is you have a lot of different kinds of energies running through you and a lot of power. And I think over these next 10, 15 years, you're going to find that it's going to get easier for you. Okay. Let me just see. Just checking the chart. Oh, Angie, you're the one. It's 4:34. Okay. Right. Yeah, not resonating with your incarnation cross. Okay. And Flora, it's 4 a.m. there. Oh, I love our friends from down under. Thank you. We've got India, we've got New Zealand and Australia, I think. Okay. All right. So let's go to Flora. Okay. So her question was, how can I best utilize my energies considering my open throat? I had a few people who asked about open throat. So I'm going to talk about open throats here. To develop a tarot reading, a YouTube channel. And so, well, here's the thing, Clara, the thing that jumps out to me about that is right here is you've got the gate 12 defined on your open throat, and it's right here in your unconscious earth, which means it's a very prominent place for you. And the 12, defined 12 on the open throat is the channel. I mean, the 12 is the channel anyway, but when you've got it on an open throat, you're going to be receiving information. You're all open up in here, right? Now, being open in your head and ajna doesn't mean that you don't get insights. It means that you're going to get them different kinds at different times, depending on who you're around and how you're feeling and what's going on for you. But having it come out through that 12. Okay. So that 12. So I would say that you're really well designed to just be responding. So you're a generator. So you're going to respond, right? That you're designed to respond. Tarot cards are awesome. You get to pull up a tarot card and you get to just tune in and you get to respond to whatever is coming up for you in tarot cards. I think it's actually a really good setup for you. And the tarot cards will give you something to respond to. The other thing is that you have 12 hanging gates, okay, to your throat. There's 1 here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I just got 9, not 12. Okay. But still, you've got a lot of hanging gates to your open throat. And so that means that your throat can get defined many, many times and has been defined many, many different times in many different ways, depending on who you've been around. Now, for all of you open throat people, somebody asked, who was it that asked, how can I manifest? Somebody was asking, how can I manifest with an open throat? And I manifest a lot with an open throat. The thing is that just because it's open, you still have it and you can still access the power of it. And you may find that there are certain people that you want to be around because it helps you to feel like you can connect to that power more. But you can also, when you've been with someone or in a situation, for me, groups are really good. So even like being online with all of you right now, or teaching, or being at events or whatever, all of that is really helpful for me to get the feeling of having my throat defined and having my throat motorized by being around manifesting generators and manifestors and people who help me get that power to my throat. People like who have the 20 help me to get power to my throat. And then when I'm not around them, I memorize what that feeling is. Now, any of you can do this with anything that's open in your chart. I was talking to somebody yesterday. I was doing a reading for someone who has the whole lower part of her chart is open and she's a projector. And I was saying to her, you can learn how to memorize the feeling of sacral energy, sacral power. Now, you won't be able to sustain it, but you can learn how to tap into it and call on it when you need it. Same is true for that open throat. Like for me at this point, I've done so much teaching and done so many videos and all of that. I can just get online and look at that little green dot on my computer and I can imagine all of you there, and it calls up what it feels like for my throat to be motorized. So this is a project that you can take on for yourself, is how can I memorize the feeling of having an open throat, of having my open throat be motorized. Okay. The other thing I would say for you, Flora, is, I hope I'm saying your name correctly, is this gate 14 that you have, is allow it to be easy for money to come to you. Okay. Allow it. This is the 14 is this really beautiful lucky gate, and your Jupiter, your unconscious Jupiter is lighting it up. And it's this ability to engage with work that you love and to just receive money for doing that. And let it be easy. Don't let it be difficult for you. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so I don't know if this is Athena or Eve, because I had both names. So I hope I'm getting your name right. So her question is, or what are my gifts and talents best shared to support the awakening that is occurring? Love that question. So one thing I would just say for you is look at this beautiful configuration you have in the knowing circuit, right? You've got the 4323 and you've got the 214, right? So you've got it coming down in through here, and then you've got it coming up through the central channel. So what are you doing with those out of the box ideas that you have, right? That are coming in through that 4323. What are you doing with those? And to allow yourself to honor them. And because you've got this 14, again, we just saw that in the last chart, it's double defined here. So you've got Neptune lighting it up over here and Jupiter over here. So you have the ability to show other people that, yes, they can be engaged. Their generators are going to work, right? But they can easily receive money and abundance through that. And you can be a model for people doing that with your out of the box ideas, because you're going to be receiving those no matter what, unless you have managed to shut them down. They're going to be coming in. That 4323 is very powerful, right? And so I would just say honor that, and then see how you can allow in abundance for yourself, because that 2 is about allowing. Where's your 2?
Oh, your 2 is Saturn. So Saturn is lighting up your 2. So that's going to be also about you practicing, allowing, practicing having money come to you easily through your work in the world. And I would suggest that your intuition can guide you really well as to what that would be. And do be asking your sacral about it, right? You've got this superpower right here. And you do have this energy for big ideas and for the drive to be able to carry them through. The thing is you do need to be having some patience for it because you need to do this in right timing. One of the biggest challenges for that 32 is waiting for the right timing. And it isn't a prominent part of your chart here, which is where your unconscious sun is. So you want to be thinking about that. Yeah, you're 32 and you're 54. Okay. So those are your unconscious sun and your conscious sun. So, and that's this channel here. And it is about big ideas and the drive to carry them through. You just want to make sure that you're doing it in right timing. And your sacral will tell you that. You know, and your 4323 is all about right timing also. So the best thing I can say to you is really, really develop your ability to tune into right timing, because you're not going to be have any shortage at all of breakthrough ideas coming through, provided that you stay open to them. The last thing I'll say here is that you do have this beautiful 48, which is double. Is it just double defined? Yeah, no, it's triple defined. Okay, it's in your Mercury. It's also in your Uranus twice. So this 48 is wisdom through research, through learning, through experiential learning, learning in your through your life experience. So that's a really nice kind of balance that goes with all that intuition that you have. So I would say to continue to explore the things that you get interested in and to develop some deep knowledge about it. And that 48 is going to help you to do that. Okay. So we're going to move on to Helen here. And Helen's question is, what is my superpower? Okay. All right. I'm just going to ask a couple of you out there who, because I know some of you have studied human design, and I want to ask you, take a look at this chart, and I want you to pop into the chart. What is the first superpower that jumps out at you? Where is the chat? What's the first superpower? Okay, yes, the 3420. Absolutely. Right. That's this channel right here. Anything else? Anybody else want to jump in here? The 4323. Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely. Right. So she's got the capacity to be allowing in these incredible breakthrough ideas. Right. And then she has the power and the speed as a manifesting generator with this 3420. And you'll look, the 4323 is in her incarnation cross. Right. So this is a huge superpower for her. Now, it doesn't have energy in it, right? But she's got plenty of energy coming from her. She's a single definition, which means all of these are connected, right? So she's got 2 motors defined. She's got the most powerful chart. She's got this speedy channel. Her 34. What's lighting up her 34? Okay, so she's got her 34 multiply defined. Okay, so she's also got to learn how to grab a hold of that energy. And yes, she's definitely a manifesting generator. Everybody who's got the 3420 is going to be a manifesting generator. But she's got to get a hold of that 34 because it's also going to drive her the same way I was talking a little while ago about Alex with that 34 energy is she needs to get on top of that. And that's one of the challenges that the 3420 can pose for people is it's got so much power in it is that it can kind of just have you feel like you are on a hamster wheel. You're really, really busy. But the question is are you busy doing something that's good for you to be busy at? Okay. So yeah, Helen, you've got plenty of superpowers here. You've got this beautiful 31, which is the new world leader, right? So you've got leadership energy, but I would say, I'm like I'm really curious to know, what are you doing with all of those out of the box ideas that you're getting? And how are you using your emotional power? And I'm hoping that you're able to really kind of get on top of that emotional power, because you've got a lot of it and you don't want it to be running you. You want to be able to feel your emotions, have your emotions move through you. You want to honor them because they're a primary part of who we are, but you also don't want them to be dictating to you. You've another one with this beautiful 14, right? So you've got lots of superpowers there. Okay. So we're going to move on to Rhonda here. All right, Rhonda. Rhonda's question was, I'd love some clarity understanding of what's the purpose. Oh, yeah, she asked about the projection field. Right. Okay. So she's a fifth line. Okay, right here. She's a fifth line. And so in quantum human design, this is the fifth line has been no longer the heretic. Now this is the visionary leader, which I like much better. Now, the thing about the projection field for the fifth line is it's known as the karmic mirror. Okay. And so the idea here is that the fifth lines are very charismatic. They tend to be quite attractive and appealing to other people. Other people want to be around them. But sometimes the other person is projecting their needs onto the fifth line. And so they're projecting their own karma onto that fifth line. And the role of the person who gets to know that fifth line is for them to start being able to own what it is that they're projecting onto the fifth line. Now, the fifth line often will have created a projection field from the inside to create a space for them where they feel more safe away from the projections that they get from other people. And the fifth lines can become very wise. And this is why they can be a visionary leader about the projections that are coming towards them. And they can help those other people to become more aware of their own karmic patterns that they are projecting onto them. That's a very high skill for somebody to develop, but that's why they're the visionary leader. So Rhonda, that's really the purpose of it, is that in this dynamic between the fifth line and other people who are attracted to them is that you have the opportunity when you can realize that they're projecting onto you. And so you don't take on whatever it is that they're projecting, and that you have a clear sense of who you are. You're really grounded. You've got a single definition here. Nice, you strong configuration of your centers and your channels. So when you can get really clear about those and feel really strong and powerful in them, you're not going to be thrown off by other people's projections onto you. And you could potentially become able to help them to see what's true for them. Now, because you've got that 8-1, I would, and your, where's your one is your spiritual warriors, your Mars. So you do need to make sure that you are self-expressing. But then your 8 here is your conscious earth. And so that's about your contribution. So the question I would pose to you is, what is that contribution for you? And is it related in any way to supporting other people to become more aware of their projections or not? And I'm not getting a huge yes on that, just kind of feeling into your chart. But you're going to be the expert on you as far as that goes. Okay. All right. So Ray here asked about romantic relationships. Might have been great, but short, though I still get on well with my exes. What does my design say about having a long-term partner? Well, one thing I'll say, Ray, is that you are a split definition. So that means you've got these two centers are connected to each other through this one channel. And then you've got these two centers connected to each other through this other channel. But the two constellations of centers are not connected to each other. So you're going to be drawn to people who help you to what we say called bridge your split. So people who have the gate 19, people with the 9, the 60, and the 53. In particular, because that's the easiest way. Yeah. those are the easiest ways. And actually, it's all listed right up here on your chart. For your split to get bridged is for you to meet people who are like that. Now, the tricky thing about electromagnetics is it's all energy. And so it may, or you may or may not actually like the person, right? So what can happen with electromagnetics is sometimes people get drawn to people and there's a kind of chemistry to somebody helps so bridge your split. And because it's getting your, all of this energy in your lower body going, you can feel like, oh, I'm really, attracted to this person. But your personalities may or may not be compatible. You may or may not actually really like each other. So one of the things I say to people a lot when you're looking at relationship by design is you do definitely want to have electromagnetics, because you want it's part of the juice, right? It's when your hanging gates meet up with each other, and when you're the differences in your defined channels and centers meet up with each other, and so all of a sudden you get access to other energies, and that can feel really juicy and exciting. And be smart about it and see, but is this a person who I share values with? Do our lifestyles match? Do we like to do some similar things? Because those electromagnetics are only going to take you so far. So Ray, if you're here, you can pop in the chat if that is helpful to you. One thing I would suggest too is for you to just do a review for yourself about why did the relationships end. If there's a pattern in the relationships ending, very often there is a pattern. So that's what you want to unpack for yourself, is what's that pattern about? I can't tell that from looking at your chart, but if I were to know a little bit more about that, then we might be able to unpack your chart a little bit more. The one other thing I would say here is that you do have this gate 18. And so my question, and you have the whole channel here, but were you ever like critical of your partners, or did they feel like you were, even if you didn't really feel like you were? Because the energy of that 18, and it is in your conscious earth, so it's in a prominent place in your chart. That 18 is known as the gate of correction in traditional human design, and the gate of recalibration, or it's about bringing patterns back into alignment. And like one of my very best friends has this gate defined, and sometimes she'll say things and there's just an edge on it. If there's a critical kind of judgmental edge on it, be like, ouch. And she'd be like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, it's like gate 18. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that. But if you're not aware of that, then it can sometimes things can come out wrong. So that's just something that you might look at. But without more information, I can't go much farther. Okay. So this is our friend Sunanda, who is here from India. I wanted to show you her chart because she is a reflector. And you'll see that none of the channels and none of the centers are defined on her. And some of you maybe never seen a reflector chart before. So it's kind of cool to see one. And her question is pretty pragmatic here. She just wants to know how to track the lunar cycle every day. I don't know of any free ways to get that. There is Zen Human Design has ephemeris that you can get, and they do have small ones that are not, I would say not expensive by US standards, but I don't know how much it is for you. So forgive me if it feels really expensive to you. I think they're maybe $15, something like that, for a whole year. You can track the moon for a year. You can also get I don't think this would really help you with human design, though. There's an app that I have called Sky Guide that'll tell you what astrological sign the moon is in, but it won't tell you what gate it's in. And I think what you want to know is what gate it's in. Okay, so that's what I can say. for that. I don't know if, well, the human design app is free, but the human design app won't tell you where the moon is day to day. So yeah. And then this is my friend Tessa. And well, if it does, go check it out. I don't know. I've looked at it before and I just saw the gates in there. So maybe she's updated it since then. So I wanted to show you this one because this is also a very rare chart. This is somebody who has all of their centers defined. So yes, exactly. Everything's defined. Well, it's like, wow, look at that, right? So the thing I would say, so Tessa's question really was about how to kind of just lean into all of the different aspects of her life. She's a mom, she's a therapist, she's a wife, she has a young son. What is it going to be for her? Like, how does she kind of manage all of these different aspects of her life? And Tessa, the thing I would say to you is you're also a sixth line and you're still like, let's see, you're just coming off the roof. So it's probably going to be true for you right around now, or maybe coming true soon is that you're going to be dropping into more of your role model time of life. And that will help you to get more clear about what direction you want to take. The thing is with this much definition, it could feel challenging for you to make changes because once the definition kind of gets oriented a certain way, it gets fixed. Now, it's not fixed like it never can be changed, but it does get fixed in the sense that it is it's consistent and it is a bit held in place. And so you do have to change it more purposefully if you do want to change it. So that's just the one thing I want to say for you, Tessa, with having that much definition. I also want to let you guys know that I decided I'm going to go and pull up some other charts out of another way on my computer. But if any of you want a 30-minute reading, I don't usually offer these. And when I do, they're usually 147. But I am going to do these for you for 97. If you want to do them, you just need to use this URL here and I will pop it into the chat so you can get it. And the code, you have to use the code to get the $50 off. It's 50 off, and off is all large, it's capital letters, large capital letters. So it's 50 OFF. And it's good through next Monday because I'm going to put this up and I want people who are going to be watching the recording to be able to get this as well. But the order form for it is sovereign.com/30min hyphen 147. You can see it's usually 147. And then the code is 50 OFF. So this is a great way if you're enjoying what we're doing here. But like I said, I said to Ray, I need to have some more information in order for me to be able to help you more. So that's something we can do more in a 30-minute reading. And usually we have time in a 30-minute reading to kind of dive into one thing. The other, my regular foundational readings are 90 minutes. So this is like an appetizer. Okay. So let me just pause for a minute. I'm going to stay on for a while because I want to go through some other charts up until half past the hour. If you need to leave, you can always watch the recording later, of course. But I want to just pause and see if you have any questions right here about anything that I have gone over so far, or any responses or reactions. And I'll just read a couple of responses here while you're thinking about what that might be. So Flower says, thank you so much, Maggie. Fabulous and really helpful and supportive. Great. Memorizing the feeling of a motorized throat and let abundance flow easily. Yes, absolutely. Rhonda says, very helpful. Okay. Yeah.
Thanks for looking. All right. So, appetizer reading. Yes. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions? Is this all landing for you? Okay. Teresa asks, what are the 3 knowing circuits? There is one knowing circuit. Okay. The knowing circuit is the largest subcircuit of the individual circuit. So there's 3 main circuits. There's individual circuitry, tribal circuitry, and collective circuitry. Okay. And the knowing circuit is a sub-circuit. I'm sorry, I keep hitting the mic. I hope that doesn't hurt your ears when I do that. The knowing circuit is actually the largest circuit in the chart because it comes down through the center and it splits and comes up through the central channel. So it's really a big circuit. And so, everybody has some of it pretty much. I don't know if I've ever done a reading where somebody didn't have any of it. But so the knowing circuit is just one sub-circuit, and it is the one that is the most intuitive, has the most intuitive gates in it, like the 57 and the 12. And it is really designed to bring in out of the box ideas. So I don't know if that answers your question, Tressa. Okay. Alexander, does it really take 15 years to integrate? Well, let me just say that doesn't mean that you can't be engaging with your life, creating your life, building your life. What it means is that after around age 50, you're going to move into a new stage where you're going to have a deeper sense of who you are, what you're doing, what you're here to do, and the kind of your power will come more online. Now, the thing I'll say is I think that's true for people in general. I think the 50s, especially today, for people who are taking care of themselves, the 50s are like the power decade. Because you kind of you don't really care so much about what other people think anymore. You've already probably been through 1 break or 2 breakdowns in your life, whether that was career or relationship or health or whatever, and you've managed to deal with that. So I think the 50s are a time when a lot of us, our power really comes online. I think it's just particularly prominent for people who are 6th lines. So Alex, I don't want you to think that you have to wait until you're 50 in order to get engaged with your life. You don't. Okay. Sunanda says reflectors can experience being different other types on different days. Is there any way I can carry out daily transits to see and utilize that info for my type for my everyday life? Is there any way, I want to make sure I understand, any way I can carry out daily transits to see and utilize that info for my type for my everyday life? Well, the easiest thing, and this is free, Sananda, is, I do a transit report every single week and I show the chart of that transit. Now, the thing is the moon does change during that time. So it's not going to give you all the nuances of the moon. And sometimes even during that week, a planet will change too. But that's a pretty great way for you to go and get what the chart is on the day of the transit, using Sebastopol, California as the location. So that's one thing I would say. But even, that little ephemeris from Zen Human Design might be really worth an investment for you if you don't want to invest in Genetic Matrix. I think Genetic Matrix has a free level. I don't know. I have a pro level, so I'm not sure. But that's what I would do, because they're basically, although Genetic Matrix, if you just go on their site, on the front page of their site is the chart of what's happening on that day. And you don't even have to log in to see that. Okay. Angie says, you mentioned trying to imagine definition in a chart if you don't have it. If you're exposed to influence of a certain definition with, say, a partner, are you going to pick up their particular shadow aspects too? Well, you certainly can. Absolutely. Because you're going to be exposed to however that person is embodying and expressing that energy. Okay. So, yeah. So you want to be looking for that.
Michelle says, so we don't have to be in someone's auric field to have access to their defined areas, even on Zoom, the phone, etc. I don't know about the phone, but definitely on Zoom. Absolutely. I can feel it because I can feel what happens to my throat. Like being here with all of you, my throat is like bing, right? Because my throat's getting defined a bunch of different ways. So the phone, maybe. I mean, here's the thing. The unified field is not the way we think about our ordinary reality, right? And so does energy pass around? So, Michelle, I would say experiment and see for yourself. That's what I would say. Okay. Yes. Agreed. Flutter says yes, 50s, feeling like coming more online now. Yeah. Angie, that's a great question. Can energy and channels be felt through the internet? My experience is yes, but I would suggest that you try it out. Okay. There were some other charts that I'm going to need to pull up differently that I wanted to look at. Feel free to keep putting questions in the chat. I'm not going to look at them right now, but I will come back to them later. All right. Okay. So I don't know if this is Nilima or Boranma. I'm not sure. If you're here, let me know. Uh-oh. Let's see. I'll put my video on. Okay. You guys can see the screen? Everybody can see the screen? Okay. So her question was how to navigate through the theme of struggle and find a satisfying career in life. Well, this is a huge theme for her because you can see her conscious sun is lighting up the gate 28, but also her Pluto. Okay. So she's got the 28, which is right here, which in traditional human design is known as the gate of struggle. And in quantum human design is known as the gate of challenge or opportunity. And here's the thing, the 28, you have to watch out. One thing I would say, Brana, is watch out for the fear that life is meaningless, because that's really the disempowered aspect of the 28. And it may be that at times if you get into your Pluto energy, you might go down that track, because Pluto can sometimes lead you down into a disempowered aspect in order for things to crash and burn so you can be reborn. But the really awesome part of the 28, so it's part of the knowing circuit, and it's connected to the 38, which you also have defined in your chart. Where's your 38? Your 38 is your spiritual warrior, is your Mars. And so what a great planet you have to light up your 38, because the 38 is the visionary leader, and is really used to be called the fighter in traditional human design. But it's really about this energy of what's worth fighting for. And so it's the mate of your 28. So anytime you start feeling like you're really struggling, or life is difficult, or it's hard for life to have meaning, is to ask yourself what's worth fighting for. What gives my life purpose and meaning. And you can go all the way back to when you were a kid to try to find that, if it feels hard to connect with in your more contemporary life. But the 28 is also it's really on the leading edge of consciousness. If you've ever heard or studied with Dr. Joe Dispenza, he is a chiropractor who has studied neuroscience extensively and done a lot of studies with neuroscientists on the brain. And he works a lot with how do we consciously create by going into the unified field and creating a unified field. And what he says is that when you really learn how to do this, you welcome challenge, because you realize that challenge is your opportunity to take your life to the next level.
because challenge is always going to stimulate you to move into new terrain, to try something new, to experiment. And so in that sense, being in the knowing circuit, it's going to be, you're going to have information that can come into you from super consciousness to help you with that. And you can be out there on the edge of that new terrain. And you could develop the capacity to enjoy that. Okay. Because struggle really is an option. Struggle is an option. Challenge is not optional. Okay. Struggle and suffering are options. They're attitudes. They're ways of responding to what's happening in life. So the best thing I can say for you is to really do some inner reflection about what creates purpose and meaning for you in your life. What are your values? What do you care about? What do you know for sure? And to be focusing on that on a regular basis, because it will enable you to transform whenever you feel like you're going down into struggle, and help you come back into a brighter and more uplifted way of working with that energy of the 28. I hope that's helpful to you. This is from Rose. And her question was, how can I manifest with an open throat? Oh, she's the one with 11 hanging gates. Okay. So she was one of the ones that I had talked about open throats before. But one of the things to remark on hers is you'll see every other center in her chart is defined other than her throat. Interesting, right? So part of what that's going to mean is there's just a lot of potential energy coming into her throat. And yeah, so she's got all of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10 different hanging gates. And so she's also going to have her throat defined many different ways. I would say for you to really get a handle on that power of your emotional energy, and to be able to activate your emotional energy so that you can get the magnetic field that is in your G center, the magnetic monopole, to be at a very uplifted state. And that's going to help you to manifest, because from a law of creation point of view, it's the power of that magnetic monopole to attract things into your life that as a generator, you then get to respond to, that's how you're going to manifest. This idea, it's interesting, the idea that the throat is what gives you the power to manifest. I think it's activation, gives you power to activate, it gives you power to express. But manifestation, really a lot comes from being emotionally involved with whatever it is that's happening for you. And so you can manifest really negative things in your life if you're more connected to the fear or the doubt or the skepticism or the shame or whatever. And you can manifest things that are really positive in your life when you have a more uplifted energy, where you're more in a state of gratitude, when you're feeling happy for what's happened in your life, where you're looking for the growth points and any challenge that comes to you, that will enable you to manifest really well. And that doesn't have anything to do with your throat. It really has to do with the emotional tone that you're carrying with you through most of your day, and how that's then calibrating this part of yours. So for you, the 10 and the 1 are really important. And that 10, that self-love, I would say, what's happening with your self-love energy? And also, are you expressing yourself? Because the 1 is that self-expression. So let's see, your 10 is, your Mars is lighting up your 10. Anything else lighting up? No, your Mars is lighting up your 10. So that's kind of like your ability to really take a stand for and be a warrior for what spiritually you think is important. And so your Mars is saying, where are you at with your self-love? And I'm here to support you in developing your self-love. And then your 1 is your Uranus, which is intuitive, and it's a lot about I always think of Uranus as being very intuitive. And so, how can you express your intuition more? Those are going to really help you with your manifesting, as much as whatever you're thinking about your throat. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Okay. So this is Cecilia, and her question is, what does my chart reveal about the career best suited to me? So this is a person with a lot of power. Okay. She's got basically all of the integration circuit here, a lot of individual circuitry, and all of this knowing circuit. So she's got the 61, the 28, 38, the 14, 2, and the 1, 8. So she's got a lot. And the 1 is her conscious sun. So I would say, Cecilia, whatever you decide to do, you need to make sure that you're able to express yourself freely in doing this. And it's interesting about a career because people who have this much individual circuitry sometimes find it hard to work for other people. Or it's important, whatever work you do, that you are able to kind of be in charge of a lot of what you do, your own time. You're not being overly managed. You don't have people who are micromanaging you or telling you what to do all the time. You're going to be really fast at whatever it is that you're doing. That's why you're a time bender in the quantum human design system. And you've got power going to your throat 2 different ways, both coming up through that 3420, and then also coming up through the central channel through the knowing circuit. And so you've got an enormous amount of power coming up into your throat and also into your G center, which is your heart. So you're a very powerful woman, and the biggest challenge I would think for you would be to get a hold of all of that power yourself and to direct it where you will. Because with that much energy and that speed that you have there, you might find yourself kind of getting knocked around by it a bit. And you want to be able to get grounded so that you're in charge, you're really in command of that energy, and you don't feel like that energy is really running you. Yeah, you also have this beautiful leadership energy with this 38. So yeah, your moon is in the 38, and it's double defined. So what else? And your Jupiter. Okay. So again, that's the knowing what's worth fighting for energy, or the visionary leader. We used to call it the Martin Luther King gate. And so that 38 is a beautiful leadership energy. And I think you're going to, whatever you decide to do, that it really has to be in alignment with your values. You also have the gate of values, which is the 50. Your Pluto is lighting that up. So that's going to be really important to you, or you're going to struggle. So that's what I would say. She also asked, how does one with an open emotional center use their emotions as navigation for manifesting if our emotions are harder to access? So I want to just give you my perspective on helping an open emotional center. I don't necessarily think that our emotions are harder to access. I have an open emotional center also. I don't find my emotions hard to access. What I find is that I can be emotionally neutral. So I can just be very even keeled emotionally. But if something is happening in my life, I'm very able to get excited. I can conjure gratitude easily. I do that every morning during my spiritual practice. I feel sad. I feel a lot of compassion when I'm with other people that I need to feel compassion for, or if I even just bring them into mind and I'm feeling into people that I care about and challenges that they might be having, I can feel the compassion quite easily. So I would say if you are having a hard time accessing your emotions, that's more your conditioning than necessarily a trait of having an open emotional center. And it may be that you picked up emotional energy from other people when you were a young person.
and that was uncomfortable for you. So you kind of suppressed your emotional energy, and then you're still doing that. But you can release yourself from that so that you can have access to your emotions. But it's not inherent in having an open emotional center. We all have emotions. Doesn't matter if you're emotionally defined or not. The difference with somebody who's emotionally defined is that everybody who has an is emotionally defined is going to have an emotional wave, and the type of wave they're going to have is depend on what circuitry is defining their emotional center. So I go into that in the video I have about emotional definition and emotional authority on YouTube if you want to find out more about that. But that's really the big difference between people who are emotionally defined and people who are not emotionally defined is that they're always going to have some kind of emotional tone, and they're going to have a wave, whereas people who are emotionally open can be more emotionally neutral, and they don't necessarily. I've gotten to the point where I don't have to be thrown off by other people's emotional energy, like really at all. And but I had to learn how to do that. I didn't know how to do that as a kid. Okay, I hope that was helpful. Okay. So Joanne is a manifester. So what makes her a manifester is she does not have a defined sacral. And she has one of the motors in the chart defined, in this case, the emotional solar plexus, and it's connected to her throat. Okay, so that makes her a manifester. Her question, she says, as a manifester, I'm super open and sensitive. I also have the 1222 channel, which is openness, passion. It's actually not passion. The gate 30 is passion. But anyway, some people make manifestors sound tough and closed. I've always felt super open and feminine. Would love to just have you share with me what you see in my chart about that. Maybe I'm a manifestor mutation. No, you're not a manifestor mutation. The thing about So Ra was really fascinated with the aura types, the auras of the different types. And he used to talk about the manifestors as having a closed aura with a kind of like a projection going forward. And that enabled them to initiate. And the idea is that they, like, for you, it would be your emotional energy, right? So you've got this emotional solar plexus, and it's going to be giving you impulses, creative impulses about what to initiate. And so it's going to come up here and it's going to give you this energy, and then that's going to move forward, kind of literally from your physical body forward, and that will give you the impetus to initiate. And that's what makes you a manifestor. What makes you an initiator. And so the hardness, I personally never particularly resonated with Ra's interpretation of the auras. Like, his interpretation of projectors is really negative, for example. I don't experience projectors the way he talks about them. So this is one of those things you really have to check in for yourself. And I just will repeat what I said at the beginning. You're the expert on you, and you're taking in information from the outside, but you always have to run it through your own system to see if it resonates for you. And if it doesn't, either it's not true for you, or it's not true for you now, or you're not ready to take in that piece of information. Whatever it is, it's not helpful to you in this moment. So if you're like, no, I don't feel hard and, closed off and everything, well, yeah, then you're not. You do have a lot of openness in your definition. You've got 5 centers open. That is going to make you sensitive. And that particularly having that G center open, this is your identity, right? This is your sense of who you are. And so that can make you feel particularly kind of sensitive to other people, and to their senses of who they are, to their love and lovability, to their direction in life. And so you could feel particularly sensitive and open to that. So no, I don't think you're a mutation. I just think you are who you are, and that it's important for you to own your experience of that. So this is the last chart I'm going to look at. So if you have any other questions, get them popped into the chat now, and I'll come back, or comments if you want to make. Okay. So this is Nahi. I'm not sure if that's how you say your name or not. And
her question is, she says, my question is about intuition in my chart. According to what you said about intuition, I seem to have some gates or traits about this, but I couldn't really connect with it. Okay. So, yeah, so she's got in the knowing circuit, she's got the 61, the 43 twice. She's got the 57 and the 38. That's all in the knowing circuit. She does have all this individual circuitry. She has all of the centering circuit. And so that is individual circuitry as well. But she does have some of the logic circuit as well. So this is the 58, the 515, and the 42. That's all in the logic circuit, as is the 62. So she's got a few different things. The thing is that the some of the gates that are in the knowing circuit that she's got are in prominent ports of her chart. So the 57, right, is in traditional human design, it's known as the most intuitive gate in the chart. I'm not sure if I particularly agree with that. I mean, it's in quantum human design, it's instinct. So it can be because it's a spleen gate. It can be, it's associated with the fear of the future, which can obviously get in the way of your intuition. If you get an intuition and it's an intuition about the future and you have a fear of the future, then you're going to have a hard time with with accepting your intuition. She also has the 61 here too, which is the beginning of the knowing circuit. So I would say, given the prominent positions with these two, then yes, intuition is going to be your friend. You also have the 43 down here with Pluto lighting it up twice. And just to say, kind of in general, and we don't really need to see the chart for this, is that if you're having trouble with connecting with your intuition, just know you're not alone. I mean, how many of us had classes on intuition when we were growing up, or some people were lucky enough to have people who were adepts in their families. They had tarot readers or whatever, people who read tea leaves, or I was not one of them. I grew up in a highly intellectual family. So for me, I rejected my intuition, and it wasn't until I was in my late 30s that I started to cultivate my intuition. It's taken me years to really get to the state that I'm in now. So if you look in your chart, I mean, I did a reading for a woman recently who has so much freaking intuition. Like, it's crazy. And she doesn't feel it at all, right? She's a young woman. She was 30 years old, had gone to highly competitive, highly left brain schools, had done really well. She'd really developed her understanding circuit, right? Her logic circuit. And she didn't relate to anything I said to her about her intuition. And I just said, well, it's here for you. It's not going to go anywhere. If you don't relate to it right now, that's okay. And you might just open up an inquiry like, I wonder what my intuition is like. I wonder how I can feel my intuition more. I wonder how how it can benefit me. And I don't know where she's at with that. I don't know if she's really ready for it, because she's kind of on the track of having done really well with developed her left brain and her strategic thinking. And she's probably going to be on that track for a little bit longer. And so if that's been true for you, it was certainly true for me. It's what I did getting my PhD and becoming a professor and all that. And it wasn't until, really later in my life, I was a good 10 years older than she is, before I really started to pay attention to my intuition. So fortunately, there are lots of ways that we can start to get in touch with our intuition now that we didn't used to have. All right. So Angie asked, so I have a favorite channel in my own chart. I love my 2838. I've come to love my 2838. I have most of the integration circuit. So I have the centering circuit. And yeah, I love all of those. I would say that's a lot of it, but I have a lot of the knowing circuit that aren't in full channels. So I'll just say it's my favorite circuit. Okay. Oh, Cecilia says, funny, I just started my own company. Yeah.
Well, I think that actually could be good. The problem is I have the energy to do all things, law, science, art. I just lost as to what to pick. So Cecilia, I'm not, let me just look at your chart again here real quick. Okay, so you are a generator. So the best thing I can say to you is learn to use your sacral to help you make decisions. I have a series of videos about how to do that on YouTube, about working with um, your uh, your sacral authority. So if you haven't watched those already, because that will help you decide which thing to pick. Okay. All right. Laura says, yes, appreciating challenges. So true. I have the 2838 and come to honor that perspective. Great. The way of feeling struggle is, yeah, struggle is a downer, right? And it doesn't have to be. Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, helpful to know about emotional centers. Yeah. Okay. Okay, Angie, with regards to open centers, how can someone handle the openness and avoid falling into conditioning, especially as an emotional? Thank you. So here's the thing. It's very common in traditional human design to act as if we are only conditioned in our openness. It's absolutely not true. We're conditioned in every single aspect of our chart. Okay. Every aspect of our chart can be experienced and expressed in different ways. I break them down into three different ways of experiencing. There's the empowered or more awakened aspect. There's the shadow aspect, which is where we're trying to manipulate or gain control, but through using some kind of power over. Many times this is subconscious, but we're trying to use the power of whatever the energy is in order to try to be to feel safe and secure. So that's the shadow aspect as I define it. I don't know anybody else who defines it that way. And then there's the disempowered aspect which is where either we're subordinating ourselves to people we think have more power, or we're just rejecting something because we don't relate to it, or we've seen other people express the shadow aspect of it. This is true for every single aspect of our chart, whether it's defined or open. And depending on who you grew up around, like I grew up around a college professor who was a huge lifelong learner, right? My gate 48, which is about learning through, developing wisdom through learning and research, was highly conditioned by my father and how he was, right? But if I'd grown up in a family with somebody who didn't care about any of those things and thought it was bunk or something, I might have had a very different relationship with my gate 48. So this is true for all of us. So our journey really is to identify what our conditioning is. And some conditioning is really positive, like what I just described about the conditioning that I got from my father, where I honor research, I honor learning, and I honor developing wisdom through research and learning and life experience. That's positive conditioning. So not all conditioning is negative at all, right? And we can also reprogram ourselves when we get to understand what the more awakened or more empowered aspects of the different energies are. And we can go, oh, I want to relate more with that. Like I just would with a 28, right? It's like, you don't have to relate to the disempowered. Struggle is the disempowered aspect of the 28, right? The really empowered aspect of the 28 is when you're on the leading edge of consciousness and you're like, yeah, bring me the challenge because I know that I'm going to expand and grow on my soul journey. When I do that, that's a really empowered and awakened expression of the 28. So I hope that answers your question. The thing is about having an open emotional center. So I was really imprinted because when I was a kid, because I channeled my parents' suppressed rage as a kid. And so I was an angry little kid and I didn't even know why. So why am I so angry? I don't know. And I got made wrong for being angry a lot as a kid because I was expressing my parents, with their generation, you just didn't express anything. That wasn't okay, right? So me, this little sensitive kid who had 5 centers open, including the emotional solar plexus, would be like, right? So I had to learn how to decondition that anger out of my emotional solar plexus.
And now I'm relatively stable, emotionally, not stable, neutral. I can get angry, right? I can get happy. I can get all kinds of things. So the thing is the more that you get command of your emotional body, and this is why I teach all my clients Kundalini yoga and why I teach breath practices and I have breath practices on my YouTube channel, is for you to get command of your energy field. Because the more that you develop command of your energy field, the less you're going to be susceptible to taking on other people's energy wherever it is in your chart in ways that you don't like. And you can be more at choice about being like, ooh, so and so has an open spleen and so and so has a defined spleen. You're like, oh, it feels really good to be around that person and their defined spleen and the way that they're really holding that. Right. Right. But then you can be like, oh, I don't really like the way that person, that person's identity, like, let's say you have an open G and that person's like identity is kind of, it's kind of icky. I don't like, it's like, no, I'm going to, have some distance from that. I'm going to breathe and make sure I don't take it in. And if I do find that I take it in, I'm going to go home and I'm going to do some energy practices and I'm going to release myself from it. So I think that's the best thing that I can say, regarding that, Angie. All right. Any last things? We're going to need to wrap up here. So thank you so much. Good point. Conditioning is happening all the time. And the thing is we can condition ourselves purposefully. That was kind of the thing I was talking about memorizing a feeling, a positive feeling that you want. You're basically reprogramming yourself. And so that you're more at choice about how you want to feel. Yes, Kundalini. Yes. I have a Kundalini sister here. Okay. So good. Thank you, Maggie. It's always really helpful. Thank you, Michelle. It's good to see you.